Here we are at the cider gums again. Now, grabbing my really worn out little brush, because I'm about to start what's possibly the most difficult part of trees, and that's some leaves in this background, but they're important enough that they're almost got to be individual. They're not quite, but they're deep Prussian blue. A little bit of trans black. Tonally quite significant. Just contrasting out, that's good, like that. So yeah, the side is just beautiful. I'm just loving the sun on my back at the moment. You'll hear the wattle birds in the background. There's one. The side is clunky, horrible, rough noise that they make. They're quite active around here. Why are they active? Well, it's actually the cider gums. Now, the cider gums producing the sap. It's really sweet. I've been observing the wattle birds have been getting in and around the trunks and even flying and flapping and almost hovering in against the trunks where the cider's leaking. And so it sort of makes me ask a couple of questions. One is, are they actually harvesting the cider and getting the nectar directly from there? Or what I think possibly more likely is that with the cider gums, the insects get along and they just simply, particularly bees and wasps, the European wasp around here unfortunately, and they around it like a honeypot basically. Obviously it's quite sugary and sweet and they love it, and so what you're getting is the wattle birds are possibly harvesting the insects that are attracting to the cider. So it's sort of an interesting thing. I'm hoping at some stage I'll be able to set up a camera up against one that near where I have lunch, where they're quite active, and hopefully I'll be able to get some film of this close up. Just let the camera run for a while and see if I can pick it up. But, yeah, it's one of the things with this location is that the cider gum is attracting life. So not only did the Villiers people come and celebrate life through the cider gums, but the insects and animals here do so also. And I mean, it's a sad thing at one level that someone introduced sugar gliders into Tasmania. I'm not quite sure why they would do that or why it happened. So sugar gliders are very, very common here, and you can tell a sugar glider by a little horizontal cut in the bark. And, there's a tree that's been attacked by them will have a lot. And that sometimes can be detrimental to the health of the tree as well, for its survival space. So, but the sugar glider is quite common in these trees. I haven't seen one yet. I'm not here at light. They're nocturnal, so I haven't actually had that opportunity. I will come stay overnight sometime. But they're harvesting the cider, and they're loving that. Now they'll harvest the sap of many gums, but particularly I love the cider gums, so it's good. at one level, but yeah, it's causing problems. There's a rare parrot here. The sugar gliders are coming in and eating the eggs in their nests, which is causing a problem. They don't, not on this site, as far as I'm aware. They're down at Bruny Island way, but that's causing big problems for the survival of this parrot. And so if they hadn't been in Tasmania, the parrot breeding ground would have been quite safe. But as soon as they're here, that's the sugar glider. That's the way it is. Gum leaves are a pain. There's no easy way to paint them. This is sort of like a little bit, almost dry brush. Well, it is dry brush. Just putting on top, getting established. Don't want to have to paint every individual leaf, but I've had to do that in some paintings of it. Some trees, when you're close up, the close-up trees really up close. You've got to do the individual leaves, and that's all right for a plant which has got a fairly big leaf. But I did do a close-up painting of a tea tree, a Melaleuca, and they have a spiny leaf. They don't have a flat leaf, and it's like little prickles almost. The problem with that is that you just, I was forever painting these little leaves, and there wasn't much choice about it. The dark areas where you've got multiple leaves, you can sort of cover in and put patches. You can't see what I'm doing here. But you most of the time, even then, if you're doing the dark patches, your front leaves have to be painted in anyhow. So painful that is. I've just got no choice but to get in, and I've got quite a big area here to fill. Oh, look, a jumping jack on the painting. It's just up the top here. Hopefully he will go down again. I don't want to annoy him. And hopefully I'm not on a jumping jack nest. As I look around, checks ground. Why do I say that? If you've ever been bitten by a jumping jack, you'll know exactly what I mean by that. They have got the most painful sting of any of the insects that I know of. I haven't been bitten by a scorpion, so I can't give you a comparison on that one. But wow, they bite, and they're really, really painful, and they stay painful for a long time. The problem with them is, and I'm not having to have this problem, but people can be anaphylactic to it. Got quite a few friends who are anaphylactic, and if I was in this location and anaphylactic got bitten by one of these boys, I would have trouble. I might have to have an EpiPen, but I have to call in the helicopters to get me out, because there'd be no way I could get down the road and still be alive by the time I got to the end. So yeah, things in Australia will kill you. It's one of those things, but that particular one won't normally kill you. But if you've got an anaphylactic reaction to it, yeah, sorry, it's going to. If you're out here and you didn't get help and you couldn't get adrenaline and management. Fortunately for me, I'm not anaphylactic to them. Have been bitten a few times. Don't wish to repeat the experience. But they're okay. The problem is if there's a nest, if I was standing around here and there was a nest somewhere where I was standing, they'd get really angry. So I'd have to stop painting here. So hopefully there's no nest. I haven't seen one. Been here for a while, so I should be fine. My brother's living in Spain at the moment, and he's posted today a picture of an asp, one of those, kill Cleopatra type snakes, only tiny, possibly not much longer than the brush, maybe a bit wider, a bit bigger. Absolutely crawls funny. At least it was crawling over tiles, but gee, the tiles weren't polished. But yeah, the comment was, oh wow, this is dangerous. Someone said that about 4% of people who get bitten by an asp who don't get treatment die. It's probably same with that bull ant, actually. 4%. I don't know what the data is, but if you didn't get treatment and you're anaphylactic, I don't know how many people are anaphylactic to jumping jacks, but I'll tell you what, there's quite a few of them. So maybe they could join the 4% of that asp. But I made the comment, it's like 4%, it's not really deadly. What about snakes in Tasmania? You might ask, what about snakes here? Well, Tasmania's got 3 snakes. Only 3, which is sort of nice. They've probably got the biggest density of snakes at one level. Some research sort of shown that, per whatever area, the density of snakes, there he is again. He's just trying to have a mosey at my paint. He might end up getting painted soon. Not sure why he's here, but he's probably smelling the paint and he's been off looking for food. The thing about these snakes, we've got the taipan. Yeah, it's one of the deadlies. We've got the tiger snake, very aggressive snake, and although I think a little bit less aggressive here than on the mainland, but it's also highly poisonous. And I think, you'd probably get closer to 100% people would die if they didn't get treatment for that one. Certainly if you didn't take the right sort of action and have someone doing CPR for quite a while on you. And then the third one is the king brown, and they're also a very nasty snake. And those 3 snakes are in the top 10 most deadly in the world. Okay? We have a lot of snakes in Australia. Australia has 9 of the top 10. There's the snake, which is the massive one, which is number 1, which is an Australian one as well. But I think the other one, the king cobra, comes in somewhere in the list of the 10. But the Australian snakes are renowned for being dead. Well, they call one of those top 10 the death adder. Don't have him around here, fortunately. But it doesn't really matter. If you get bitten by a snake, you get bitten by a snake. And I think the same thing would be here. If I get bitten by a snake up here, I'll be calling air ambulance basically. I've got a first aid kit in the car. Don't have it with me where I paint necessarily, but I would be calling in the help. Fortunately I have phone reception here, it's not too bad. But if you're working around and moving, the snakes know I'm here, and they're nowhere near coming to see me. They're quite shy things. They only tend to want to bite if they think you're food, which you're not going to be food because I'm too big, they can't fit me down their mouth. But also they're not going to bite unless you tread on them, and I think that's probably the biggest risk walking through this high country with the button grass and stuff like that. Tiger snakes particularly tiger snakes like camping in around the base of button grass. So you just got to be a bit careful about how you step and where you step when you're walking around a bit. It's one of those, can't do much about it at one level if you did hit one. Hopefully, If he did, he'd have to go through the genes and stuff first, and a little protection. I guess if I was doing some serious walking and stuff like that, I might consider doing things like grabbing me some chaps or something that go over the top of my shoes, leather stuff, to give a bit more protection. But generally speaking, do you see snakes? You know, here in my work of sitting out in the landscape and painting, and I've been doing this all over Australia for 40 years, not full time, certainly full time at the moment, but you know, I would say put them all together and you would have 2 years or 3 years full-time painting, just every day, not 24 hours, 8 hours a day. Probably have done the equivalent of full-time painting for around about 2 or 3 years. And how many snakes have I seen? Really good question. The answer is very, 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 very few. In fact, I can count them on one hand, and I'm just trying to think. While I'm painting, or in the painting space, I've only seen one. So, at an easel, where I was painting up in my Winnie Creek paintings, working on a little painting called Moya Moya. Yeah, 2.5 foot brown, I think. Slid it around and bit of water there, and he sort of coming around and he saw me and he went under a rock and stayed around and didn't come out again. He's fine. So in that sense, not a major big issue, but yeah, walking through the bush and stuff like that, I've seen a couple here in Tasmania. And I've seen more in Tasmania, if you think in terms of length of time, than anywhere else. I just, you know, stopped, watched him crawl off, kept going. So what do you do when you see a snake? You know, you're going to come and visit Australia if you're overseas. You know, we love keeping our visitors away, saying too many snakes, everything's going to kill you in Australia. Technically possibly true, but you'll die of a car accident before you'll die of a snake bite here in Australia. Mainly because we have medicine, but as long as we can get the antivenom in you within a period of time. But we just don't get bitten that often. You're much more likely to get bitten by a shark than you'll get bitten by a snake in Australia. You're more likely to get bitten by a shark in America than you would be bitten by a snake in Australia. So, not a big issue for us. But we do love stirring the foreigners. But that said, you know, there is danger. No worry. The other nice thing about Australian animals, apart from the drop bear's an exception, but yeah, watch the hoop snake too, but yeah, apart from that, the drop bear, everything else is pretty good. Not much else. The marsupials are lovely. They're very shy. They only come out at night. Even our renowned one, like our tiger and our devil, both of those are non-dangerous to human. Wouldn't want a devil holding onto my leg and trying to bite it. But they don't go for live meat, they go for dead meat. So they've got a pretty powerful jaw. Oh, gee, they can crunch through bone. It's just over there, I saw a wallaby foot. That's all that was there, just wallaby foot, 1 foot, nothing else, no carcass anywhere there. It's possibly that the devil came and ate the whole thing. You know, kangaroos got pretty dense bones, but they just munch them up, I think. So they just go for town if they get a carcass. So I've had a few contacts with devils in the last little time. The Tasmanian devil, that is, not the other type. Trying to keep those guys away from me. But the Tasmanian devil, it's a beautiful animal. It's small, sort of stocky, yeah, aggressive when it's food around. certainly not tame. And there's a nice thing about them. Yeah, they clean up the bush. You don't have any smelling carcasses if there's devils around, you know. Unfortunately this year I've seen 3 dead on the road, because what happens is that, you know, possums come out the road. You sort of wonder why on earth there's a possum sitting on the road. I think they got the warmth of the road overnight, like the bitumen keeps the warmth on, and so they come and park themselves in, and they go, oh, there's a road, I'll park there. And they're dumb things. Possums, they don't move around. If they hear a car, they don't necessarily scare, and if they get caught in the headlights, just like a rabbit in a headlight, it'll just freeze. So a lot of possums die. Someone says they're really bad, you know, possums, they're sort of cute. Bushtail possums that are around here are sort of cute, but the problem is that they're not great around human habitat. They look after themselves, but they're really a pain if they get in your shed, if they get in your house or in your roof. Looking to try and store my paintings, and I need somewhere that I can put them that are possum proof, because, you know, if they end up in where I'm trying to store my paintings, they'll pee all over them and do a lot of damage. So posses are all over the place around here, all over Australia. They're a classified pest in New Zealand, because someone idiot took bushtail possums over to New Zealand, and they became like rabbits here. So you're allowed to kill them over there. They're a native animal, so we have rules around not killing any native animals without licenses and stuff like that. But the problem for us is that the possum, you know, likes to live around humans, because there's nice houses and roofing, and we provide them with housing, so to speak. Providing with housing is a pain, because it's normally our houses that they want to live in, and our sheds. But yeah, outside of that problem, they sit on the roads and they get killed. Along comes the smell of the dead possum, and there's the Tassie devil out there feeding, and the Tassie devil's too focused on food to hear the car coming down. So then the Tassie devil gets hit by the car. It's like that Dr. ABC in First Aid, danger response. You know, Tassie's devil's about to eat a dead possum on the road. Does he stop and think about danger? He has a response. The response is, let's make him more dead. But does he have a... No, he's just straight in there. The problem is the truck coming down the road, or the car coming down the road, just bang, hits the devil. And so the devil's dead. So I found 3 dead devils outside our village in Paotina this year, or the beginning of the summer. In the spring season, they must have been out and about and breeding and stuff, which is really sad. The devils are got a real problem at the moment. They've got a facial tumour which is really knocking the population on the head. But data is saying that they're starting to get immunity to it and survive it. And the other reality is, if you see a dead animal on the road, you know that there's a lot of other animals around. It's not every animal gets killed on the road. It's an indication that you've got a good population when you find them dead on the road. I was Christmas time, bit of an extended stay in Sydney due to COVID, and I was travelling through the Wallaby National Park on Bellsliner Road, very long road, and roadkill, it would be quite common on an Australian road like that, you would think, and it's 100% through the bush most of the time. But interestingly, 2 trips down the road I saw 1 dead kangaroo on the side of the road that had been hit. That was all, nothing else. Now here, you can't travel down a road that's rural without seeing roadkill on the road. It's all over the place. There's quite a lot of it. And so, you know, to do that sort of road here, you would probably have 50 pieces of roadkill on that road. And that's counting the fact that there's devils around cleaning up the ones that you can't see, as long as the devil doesn't get hit too. So, yeah, it's a interesting problem. That's one of the beautiful things about living in Tasmania. You get the animals. I'm chatting away. I don't know whether there's any coming around at the moment, but in this painting site, I've seen 3, 4, 5 kangaroos in a matter of 4 weeks, just popping through, coming up, seeing me, taking a different route because I'm in their road. Yeah, so this is quite a lot of animals here.